Okay, if you're actually really pessimistic and you take that on as a philosophy of your life, everything sucks. I'm gonna doubt everything. Government's always trying to screw us. Aliens everywhere, Illuminati. If that was really your case, if that was really your life, I think you're just wasting a lot of time like hurting yourself.
Sometimes positivity is seen as being annoying, unrealistic, and individuals who try to be positive run the risk of being outcasted by peers or viewed as juvenile or unrealistic.
It's probably easier to bond with people that you don't know over things that are easily within reach, within conversation. So if we're talking about, you meet somebody in an elevator and you just want to spark up a conversation, talking about the weather is easily accessible because you were both just outside 5 minutes ago.
Personally, I feel a little bit tired if somebody always just complain. So I just feel that it's sucking energy, and I just would be avoiding this type of people.
Yeah. I do feel like there is this strange pressure, though. I feel like when someone is positive or constantly grateful, let's say, which is actually a beautiful thing, and isn't seeing the worst in things or isn't complaining, I do feel like other people, I don't know, I feel like there is a...
Seems inauthentic.
Yeah, or people don't appreciate as much or don't feel as connected to you, whereas if you hate the same thing, then it's our same person, then it's a lot more of a bonding tool.
Because nobody can be positive 100% of the time.
No,
if
not 100%
you are, you
of
seem
the
like
time.
a cartoon character. You don't seem like a three-dimensional human being.
Right. But let's say you're in an office situation, for an example, that's super stressful and everyone bonds by bitching and complaining about the boss or about the work or about the paperwork or whatnot, and someone is, just actively trying to shape their consciousness or being mindful and being grateful and trying to just stay positive, I feel like that person would be a little left out or seen as, a little different or annoying by other people.
When you think of gratitude, do you think of, would you put gratitude and positivity hand in hand?
I would.
Yes?
Sure.
So yes, we all kind of brand gratitude and positivity hand in hand. Do you think that has negative repercussions on people's willingness to accept gratitude or to even be more grateful?
Oh, 1 second. I just realized that I do not agree that it's hand in hand.
Okay.
I just realized that you can be grateful without being totally positive, and still you can be grateful while you are complaining. Because, for example, right today when I was driving here, I drove from Oakville. I was like, oh my God, I hate driving in Toronto so much. I love those wide streets in Oakville with no pedestrians, no bicycles,
Nothing.
And then I was like, okay, but what can I do about this? I'd better think how much I like and how much I'm happy to live in Oakville and do not need to do it every day to drive through Toronto. So I just turned this. I started with complain and I just turned it, but it didn't cancel my complaint about it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't totally positive, it's okay to drive with all these bikes. No, I was really mad and stressed out.
It's all about how you frame it.
Yeah, but I just a little bit reframed it in the very end, so it allowed me to get my negative emotions out, but in the end to stay grateful.
Yeah.
So, what about gratitude? I wanted to dig a little deeper to really understand people's perceptions about gratitude and how it links to positivity. One of the most common misconceptions around gratitude includes the notion that being grateful for what you have might make you complacent. So someone who values that self-improvement might be reluctant to practice gratitude with the fear that it might eliminate that drive and motivation. Or someone who continues to have that drive might be then perceived as being ungrateful, as it was the case in one of our discussions. It seems like gratitude, or I would ask you, does gratitude and positivity go hand in hand to you?
For sure. Absolutely. I think so.
I see Christina thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when I'm feeling negative is when I try to force myself to think of something I'm grateful for. To, I guess, maybe force the positivity out a little bit.
For sure.
Because I don't feel like I am positive by nature. I'm the realist, one who always sees like the problems and everything. But I think for me also sometimes I feel like because I always want more, does that make me ungrateful for the things that I already have? But can I just not want more and be grateful at the same time?
It's like that borderline between settling and...
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that. You know, I was friends with this individual for years. We went to university together, and you know, she said, well, why can't you just be happy with what you have? And the reason why she said that, we were driving downtown and I looked at the building and I said, I'm going to own a building one day. So why can't you just be grateful with what you have? And it struck me because I'd never ever thought of myself as being ungrateful. And the idea of wanting more and wanting to aspire to do different is being interpreted as being ungrateful. And I never understood that. To this day, I cannot understand that.
I think motivation, maybe motivation can be applied to that, because I had someone say something similar to me too, because I was always switching jobs. And the reason for that was I was always, you know, maybe looking for more challenges, more money, like more of something. And the person said to me, you know, you have all these great jobs and I don't. But like, why can't you just be more grateful? And I sort of had the same reaction, because to me I was like, it felt so normal to just move on to something better, right?
Yeah, this isn't good enough.
Yeah, and I think maybe that person who said that to me, because that person could not maybe motivate themselves to do better. For them, they saw me as ungrateful because I had things that they didn't have, but I wanted more.
There's so many different perspectives and experiences that filter themselves through the way that we speak. And I find that there's a thin line between wanting more and wanting to grow. And growth can look like property, it can look like, you know, a vision coming through. It can look like you grow taller, right? It does. So there is an inherent dissatisfaction or discontentment if you're not growing for most people. And the way I see it, if it's not growing, it's dead.
I may not include wanting more and being grateful in the same category, mainly because even if I want more, it doesn't mean that I won't be grateful to whatever I get.
Right. Or does it mean you're not grateful for what you have?
Well, you would never tell someone, why are you having another kid? You already have a family. Like, it's ridiculous.
I'm sure somebody's heard that before.
Well, I'll kind of, since a very young age, I was told that I wouldn't be able to have children naturally. So it was embedded in my head, I think I was 16, that, oh, I probably would never be a mom, oh, my hormones are all whack. And then I went to, you know, I was married and I went to a specialist and I said, okay, so tell me, like, what do I need to do? And she said, well, are you planning on having kids tomorrow? And I said, no. She said, then don't worry about it. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And I started no longer focusing on children. And I focused on giving thanks for my marriage, giving thanks for my family, giving thanks for all the blessings that were in my life. And on a daily basis, giving thanks for my patience, that my patience would continue to grow, giving thanks for my everything. Literally, all I did was give thanks. And it's funny because I felt like at that point in my life where all of a sudden I became pregnant, and it was like a total miracle, I was at such a high level of gratitude in my life, and I feel like it was almost like God was like, okay, like you're totally ready now because you've recognized that you have so many blessings, you really weren't lacking.
What a powerful story that kind of shows the impact of gratitude and switching the way we're seeing our situations. So gratitude does not equate to positivity, and it can be a source of refuge during our tough times. At the same time, if we force it, it can bring a feeling of guilt. For example, as a therapist, when I'm working with clients, They might feel guilty for feeling sad because they have so much to be grateful for. Forcing positivity or gratitude can sometimes do more harm than good. However, when you do hold space for some of those negative and hard feelings or accept your struggle, having compassion and empathy for your experience, adopting an optimistic lens might be the most pragmatic option for us.
Yeah, I think gratitude is really important for us to embrace, but also we have to be acknowledging that when we are depressed or highly anxious, it's hard to think outside that experience and see the things that we should be have gratitude towards. Having someone say you should be grateful for things can be overwhelming, because now you're feeling like, now I should be doing this, right? As soon as we get into the shoulds, we know we're into dangerous territory because we're being kind of told by ourselves to do something that we're struggling with.
I know that I'm not an overly optimistic person, but I'm also not an overly pessimistic person. I fall somewhere in between, depending on the day, depending on the month. And I'm trying to be more optimistic, because sometimes I feel like I've reprogrammed and gotten to that point where I'm always, looking at the brighter side of the grass is greener. The grass is green where I am now. Not that it's greener on the other side, but then there are other times, probably the time I'm in right now, where I don't really feel that way. And so I'm trying to make it who I am and not just kind of fluctuate and yo-yo back and forth between these feelings.
I feel the same way as you in the sense that, I was tapping like good for most of them, but I would say I'm a pragmatic pessimist. Okay, so like the main thing for me, the main thing is like, I'm not doing it because I believe in like everything's gonna be sunshines and rainbows.
Sure.
I'm tapping good because, in my opinion, there's no pragmatic benefit to being pessimistic. And that's the irony. It's like this thing where it's like almost, one of the biggest ironies that in life is that a lot of different philosophies have this meditation, that you meditate on death. You meditate on how you're gonna die, on the worst possible outcome. Ironically, that actually helps people because you realize very quickly it's not as bad as it really is.
Right.
So I actually think of the worst possible case scenario and everything, and I realize, wait, it's actually pretty funny. And then all of a sudden, that's what gives me the optimism.
It's true. I guess it's that reaction in your brain, and we know that there's a connection between stress, and that if you're approaching everything, and if you're stressed about every single situation, then it elicits a reaction in your brain, and then in turn you're making it worse for yourself. Whereas if you, to your point, the pragmatic optimism, you're actually looking at all aspects of it, and then you.
Wait, hold on. Pragmatic. Pessimism.
Pessimism.
This
Sorry.
Is the irony
pessimism.
of it. I say pragmatic pessimism.
Yeah, you're right. You said pessimism.
Only because, for me, it's actually a worse option. Okay, if you're actually really pessimistic and you take that on as a philosophy of your life, everything sucks. I'm gonna doubt everything. Government's always trying to screw us. Aliens everywhere. Illuminati. If that was really your case, if that was really your life, I think you're just wasting a lot of time like hurting yourself. You're wasting a lot of time amping your cortisol levels.
Right. Exactly.
Going to what you said about like stress, it's totally true. Now, one thing funny, like I remember reading this somewhere, it's like, I was like, stage fright, right? A lot of us get that. Now, what if you just switch it? You're actually not anxious, you're excited. That's it, it. The same feeling is excitement. You've reprogrammed, you've reframed in your brain, all of a sudden, wow, it's not that bad. It's the same kind of thing.
Whether pragmatic pessimism or mindful optimism, what I've learned through my personal life, my work as a therapist, and all my research is that our perspective on our situations matter more than the reality of the situation itself.
Gratitude to me is a practice as much as anything else. It can be being grateful for the things that you have, but it's also that act that gets you to that gratefulness, that the questioning of, when did I feel good today? And being able to pinpoint that. And so it's something that you can really weave into your psyche, I think, more than just doing a gratitude practice, but actually like living in that practice is different.
It's not about when this happens, then I'll feel grateful. It is our practice of gratitude that starts to invite joy into our lives.